In this video, you will learn how to find the sum of a given sequence. The notation that will be used in the calculator is shown on your screen to the right. You will use the built-in operation sum, and then the built-in operation sequence. Now you will enter the expression, then the variable that you're using in the expression, where the sum begins, and then where the sum ends. In the next three examples, round your answer to 2 decimal places. So what we need to do is we need to go to the mode key, and remember we go to the float mode. So right now it's on 3, we would like to put that on 2. So let's move down, and move it over, and highlight the number 2 and select enter. And then we can quit out of this mode. Second function quit. Now everything will be rounded to 2 decimal places. For example 1, we would like to find the sum from 3 to 25 of the quantity 3i minus 20 squared. So let's go to the second function, and then we want list. So we'll select this key, we move over to math, and we want number 5 for sum. Then we go back to second function, and then we want the list again, so select this key, and this time we're going to move over to ops. So move over to ops, and then number 5 is sequence. Okay, now we'll input the expression, so that's the quantity of 3i. Now to get the I, we use the alpha key, and then here's the I right here. It's the letter in green. So select this key, and then subtract 20, close the quantity, and then we need to square it. Now we put our comma in, enter the variable, so we go back to alpha, and then we want I, select this key, then comma, followed by where the sum begins, and it begins at 3, and then a comma, and then where it ends at 25, and then we close the operation and select enter. So our answer is 20,240, and you can see that we're getting our answer to 2 decimal place accuracy. Okay? So let's clear the screen. For example 2, we would like to find the sum from 1 to 50 of 2 minus k divided by k. So let's go to second function in list, and we move over to math. We want 5 for sum. Then we go second function list again, and we move over to ops this time, right here. And we want number 5 for the sequence. Now we'll enter in the expression, and that's going to be 2 minus k. So we need to put parentheses around the 2 minus k. 2 minus k. Now we use alpha, and then we want k. So here's k right here. So select that key. Close the grouping symbol. Now we're doing this because, remember, the calculator will follow order of operations. And if you don't do it, you'll get an incorrect answer. So then that's divided by k. So we go alpha and then k. So select that key. Okay, now we put our comma in, and then we enter the variable that we're using. We're using k, so alpha and then k, followed by a comma, and then the sum begins at 1. Select 1, and then we separate it with a comma, and then the sum ends at 50. and then we close our operation. So we select Enter, and we get our answer of -41, and that's rounded to 2 decimal places. So let's select Clear. Now for example number 3, this is a little bit more difficult because it involves subtracting two summations. So first we're going to take the sum from 1 to 100 of 3j minus 2. Then we're going to subtract 5 times the sum from 10 to 80 of 2j divided by j minus 1. Let's go ahead and start inputting this information. So first, let's go to second function and then list. Move over to math. We want number 5 for sum. Then we go back to second function, then list, and we want to go to ops and then sequence, and then let's enter in the expression. That's 3j, so we hit alpha and then j, and that's subtract 2. Okay, and then we will separate this by a comma. Now we put in the variable, which is j, so we go alpha and then j, and then followed by a comma, and the sum starts at 1 and then a comma, and then it ends at 100. And then we close the operation.
Now we need to close the sum with the right-hand parenthesis. This isolates the sum. We did not close the sum in the two previous examples because we were only computing a single sum. Since we are subtracting another sum, we must isolate the first sum with the closing parenthesis. Now we subtract 5
times the sum, so we go second function and then list. We go over to math, and then number 5 for sum, and then we go second function again, and then list. We want to go to ops, and then number 5 for sequence. Now let's enter in the expression, and that's going to be 2j, so that's 2, and then j, alpha, and then j, and that's divided by the quantity of j minus 1. So alpha, and then j, subtract 1, and close that quantity. Now we follow that by a comma, enter in the variable, so alpha, and then j, and then comma. It starts at 10, comma, and then it ends at 80. And then close the operation. Now, since we've already isolated the first summation right here, so there's the beginning and there's the end, then it's going to take that answer and then subtract 5 times this sum. So there is no need to put a closing parenthesis on our second sum. Now select Enter, and we get 14,217.65. Okay, and that's rounded to 2 decimal places. This concludes the video on using the calculator to compute summations.